Hey folks, welcome back to DCS. We're in the F4. The other day on Reddit, someone asked whether I thought, well, they asked generally, but they asked whether they thought the F1 or the F4 was the better dogfighter. And personally, I think it's the F1. And I wrote quite a long comment explaining why. But there were a few people that came along giving quite good arguments about why the Phantom's actually better than the F1. And I can kind of see the merit in that debate. So what I'll do is stick the link in the description below so you can go and read that post for yourself. Kick me digitally if I forget. But it made me want to fly the F4. So that's what we're doing. So we're up at about 20,000 feet right now. There's apparently a MiG-21 in hot, 20 miles away. He's currently at 5,000 feet altitude. If he wants to fight me, he's going to have to climb. But I'm going to dive as we get closer because that will give me a massive energy boost. He's already climbing, he's at 9,000 feet. I want Jester to find him. So the best way of doing that is to neutralise our altitudes. And it's also easier to see him visually if we're at the same altitude as well. So he's now much closer and actually higher than me. So I'm looking up and trying to scan for him. I've told Jester to put the radar into bore sight mode, so if I spot him visually I might be able to fire a Sparrow off in the head-on. Unfortunately it doesn't quite happen in enough time to make it work, so we spot the 21. 21 spots us, he's coming down, we're going up, but we have just been diving for a while prior to this, so we have plenty of energy to go up and over. Managed to retain visual on him the entire time because we've got maxed out settings and we're not in VR, so my neck does not have to factor into this equation. Still tracking him as we're coming up and over. He appears to have done a lot of flat turning and not a lot of climbing, so he didn't manoeuvre in relation to me for a huge amount of this. I think he must have lost Viz. He's extending away. So I'm going to tell Jester to put the bore sight mode into aft or tail, I forget what the mode's called, but it's for firing on things that are a cold aspect. And in typical Phantom fashion it doesn't track. So we climb, we turn. Makes our radius smaller, but without it costing us as much speed. As we dive back down and start to pull a lot harder, you can see we start to black out a little bit. And we're now entering into a rate fight with this MiG-21. So I started like offensive from altitude. Currently, we are outrunning the crap out of this guy. We are maintaining above 500 knots. We're gonna get him, basically. Still don't think he sees me. Should be jinking right now since I'm pulling lead. And we get a pretty nice lead on target there. More luck than judgment, honestly. The Vulcan points down a bit. It's extremely difficult to use. I tend to put the gun sight into air to ground mode and put the gun sight depression on 55, which that actually angles the sight down to point where the gun is pointing. So we've dealt with that guy. On the EWR reports, it says that there's a Mirage F1, 12 miles away, Angels 14, so he's above me by quite a bit. In fact, he's at Angels 34, I think I read it wrong. So we look over to the right and we see the contrail. Really easy to tell where he is right now, so we're just going to nose directly at him. I don't expect Jester to find him using the regular scan mode because Jester tends to look in relation to the horizon rather than your nose position. If I could get Heatblur to add one thing, it would be a Jester wheel option that tells Jester to point the elevation level with my nose, because it's so annoying getting to find something that's at different altitude to you that my way of dealing with people has been to either zoom, climb or dive to meet the same altitude so that Jester will see them, or just using the bore sight mode and forgetting that Jester exists. Because he's more hassle than he's worth, to be completely honest. I don't ever see the Mirage before we merge, so I'm diving, getting the energy back. And I do actually see him on the recording right now, but I didn't see him at the time. Apparently he's still at 25,000 feet hot. Very close. Jester calls 4 o'clock, which is not what EWR report says. I actually trust him for once. We go back up and over. I can't see the Mirage at this stage, but 4 o'clock is basically behind us, so we just pull an element to face the other way. At this point we get a new report that says he's at bearing 251 for 1 mile at 9,000 feet. We're at 11,000 feet right now, so we're going to dive below the clouds. We're going to point to 251. It says he's cold as well, so he's running away rather than turning in relation. At this point I spot him. Not sure what his energy state is because I'm not sure what he's been doing, but his altitude has fluctuated about as much as mine has, so he's probably not too far off our energy state. I don't know if he's seen me yet though. So whilst we're carrying a lot of speed, I'm going to trade a lot of it in for nose position and pull the nose around quite hard. You can see that we're starting to black out quite a bit. Mirage is kind of bugging out a little bit, and we go for a high angle deflection shot, which is not great for hit chance, although I do get quite close. But what it is good for is meaning that I will retain enough speed to boom through. He'll have to turn quite hard to avoid me, and then if he wants to stay on me, he has to reverse his turn. So for my one gradual pull around, he has to basically turn twice to follow me, which is going to bleed a lot more speed for him than it does for me. We use the fact that we've saved that energy to just stay high and route around, and it seems in this case that the Mirage, I think he compressor stalled, because he seems to be wallowing and extremely slow. So we just use an M9 on him to put him out of his misery. He was definitely too focused on his own jet to think about where I was or what I was doing at that stage. No shame on him, because I've been there myself. Moving on a little bit later on, and we get a Mirage on the EWR, as well as a MiG-19, 6 miles, one's to my front right, one's to my front left. I'm going to focus the Mirage first because he's flank left and it says the MiG-19 is cold, so our closure rate will be higher towards the Mirage. I'm trying to scan to find him and struggling. What I hadn't considered at this stage is that he'd be tied up with a friendly. Not sure why that didn't occur to me at the time, but it now says that he's flank right 5 miles, so we've not really closed on him too much, but he's flipped the direction he was going, which is a clear sign usually that they're tangled up with someone else. So that's actually an F5 that we just saw. I assumed at first that the F5 was the oppressor and that the F1 would be defensive, but it's actually the other way around.
2 o'clock now.
It conveniently works out that we end up on the Mirage at 6. We are quite fast, so you can see that we're starting to block out, and at this stage, because the F1 is so laser focused on the F5, I just decided to stick to him for a little bit. If I were the F1 in this situation and I'd seen a Phantom on the EWR reports, I would have broken off this engagement a while ago and tried to find the new entry person, because it matters more that you check your 6 and you keep yourself alive from new threats than it does to kill the thing that you're latched onto, because you'll never kill anything if you're dead. So you should always focus more on defense than offense. This Mirage gets too distracted focused on, he gets tunnel visioned on the kill that he wants rather than the survival that he needs. And then that MiG-19 then comes in. I can see him over there above the water. In fact, that's him there. So the F5's the high guy, MiG-19's zooming in on him. F5's flaring, which tells me that he's defensive. MiG-19 overshot. Looks like the F5 actually got a glancing hit there. And then the MiG-19 goes into the drink. So that was actually quite a nice move on the F5's part. Bit sad I couldn't get 4 kills out of it, but hey ho. And then the server resets before I can land. So I was trying for an ace in that sortie and it didn't quite work out. One of the things that I said was an argument against the F4 in that Reddit post that I told you about earlier. The fuel longevity of the Phantom is worse than the Mirage. So the Phantom can carry more fuel, but it's not double what the F1 can carry, and obviously the Phantom has 2 engines, so not only does it go through the fuel twice as quickly, but it also doesn't carry double, so it lasts less time total, and because it carries more fuel, it weighs more anyway, and I think that these are all points against the Phantom's favour. So part of what I've been trying to do in flying the Phantom more is trying to make the Phantom's fuel last longer by utilising altitude more, because the higher up you are, the thinner the air is, the faster you can go with the less fuel burned, and it means that even if you stay in burner longer, it doesn't really matter as much. So whilst I've been chatting away, in the background we've got an F1 that we've been dialing in on using the EWR reports. Currently he's 9 miles off the nose at 15,000 feet. I actually never see this guy at the time. I'm just using the radar to make sure that my nose stays pointed at him. To get the lock from Jester, I just matched altitude and waited for Jester to find him. And then I just follow him based on the radar. And as he closes in, I'm looking at the closure rate and the little dot to tell me what his nose position's like in relation to mine. When the circle expands to tell me that I can fire, I do. And then I try and follow the missile in to see where he is, and I still never see him. But in a second, as he crosses to our left, you'll see that the Sparrow does see him, thankfully. So, not the most interesting engagement ever, but a good showcase of how to get Jester to work well for you. After that, the EWR report is just filled with bear bomber warnings, and they're at like 40k. So we make our way over there in full burn, and do what we can. I do fire a Sparrow on them about 10 miles out, but somehow it misses even though we were doing Mach 1.2 at 40k. They are quite shit missiles. So we go up and over, we stack high, we aim 9-1, we gun the other. And then we do the same thing again basically. I loop left and climb. And then I dive and come back right. Miss my shots on the way back down, so on the way back up, get guns on this guy, we shoot off one of his elevators and his rudder. Not sure if that's going to kill him or not. It probably will eventually, but I want the kill now, damn it. So we go back around and we saw both his wings off.
The bandit is down.
And then I'm checking my ammo here. We still got about 380 shots, which is quite a bit, but I've noticed that the Mirage F1s come back up in the EWR reports. We finished that one off with an AIM-9 since it's in front of me and I don't want to hang around too much. Double check the ammo count, it says 389, that's plenty enough to kill a Mirage F1. And we are really vulnerable at this altitude because we can't turn for shit. And even though it says we're quite quick, it doesn't matter because when the air's thin, you just can't maneuver. So I need to dive, I need to get out the cons. He'll be able to see me from a mile away, he'll know exactly where I am. So we dive in, not only to get speed up to get out of the cons, but also to improve our manoeuvrability. And I can see him now. So we try and turn in for a head-on, maybe I can get a bore sight lock on the Sparrow. But his closure rate is insane. Kind of lose him a bit in the clouds, so I try and just guess where he's going to be. And he crosses behind us, as predicted.
7 o'clock now.
He almost certainly lost vis of me when I left the cons as well, if he ever saw me at all. And as he dives through, the sea, you'd think that one solid colour object would be an easy thing to track people against, but the sea is so dark, it's impossible pretty much to track anything against water at altitude. Especially in the Phantom, because the front glass of the cockpit is tinted slightly for reducing glare. And as well as reducing glare, it also makes you blind if the backdrop behind the target is darker than the sun, which is everything pretty much. Thankfully, with the EWR reports, I do spot him as he goes around to our right. So rather than just flat turning, I kind of climb a little bit as we come around. We've been diving, so we've got oodles of speed to waste. And I'm trying not to go head on with him, I'm trying to sort of delay my turn so that we stay behind him. I'm still not sure whether or not he's seen me at this point, but he starts climbing vertically. And I'm thinking he's probably just basing what he does on what the EWR reports say, so he starts turning into me. But I don't think he would have done that if he'd realised he wasn't going to complete the turn. We do get close enough to get guns on, and we do clip his elevator with one shot from that burst. Whether or not that means anything at all for his flight dynamics, I have no idea because DCS's damage modelling is kind of whack. But we were carrying a lot of speed into that climb, so we come up and over and we dive back down on top of him. He seems to just be flat turning in a left-hand orbit. Looks like he started climbing, so I back off the burner because I don't want to close in so much that I overshoot. And then as we get closer and the climb angle starts to increase, punch the burner back in so that he doesn't create too much of a gap. And I just go for it with the nose authority here. I don't care if I lose speed because he's slow as well. and we just saw him into bits.
Bandit is down.
And that's the end of the video. So I hope you enjoyed that, folks. If you want to see more, then hit that sub button and like the video. Coming up, I actually have 2 other F4 videos in the works. One is an out-of-ground sortie with a channel member on Shadow Reaper's 960s, which is a little bit multi-role-ish. We bomb some stuff, we kill some stuff, it's a good time. The other is a 6-kill sortie on Heatblur's Cold War server using one of my channel members as a GCI, and I streamed it over Discord, so if you want to get stuck in a sort of community fashion, then check out the Discord link in the description. You might even find yourself in a video, or if you even just want a wingman to fly with, then there's plenty of people in there that will be happy to join you. Skill level be damned, you could be a complete noob and we'll try and help you get your foot in the door. On that note, someone has bought a VR headset off the back of my VR videos so far, without the review even being done, so thank you whoever that was. If you need any help with the setup, then let me know in the Discord and I'll do what I can. On the topic of VR, the review is in the works. It's a bit of a project video, it's taken more time than I expected. There's also another project video on the go, which is examining how the lack of standardization between damage modeling and radar modeling in DCS is kind of harming the multiplayer scene. And I'll be using War Thunder as a comparison piece for that video, so if that sounds interesting to you, if you enjoyed my other DCS versus War Thunder video, then subscribe and stick around for that. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's been on the cutting room floor for a while now. Beyond that, I just want to plug the air models and the Pimax affiliate links in the description, so check those out if you want to help support the channel, and consider becoming a channel member if you like what you see, or even just a subscriber and liking the video, leaving a comment, joining the Discord, whatever it might be. Trying to build up a little bit of a sim community, as it were. So I hope you've enjoyed, thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.